So by now, you should already have Microsoft Word installed on your device. If you don't, make sure you put Office on your computer before you begin watching this. So once you open Word, you'll be presented with something similar to its backstage view. You'll see that my screen is very far zoomed in. Again, I apologize for that. I have to do this for my own vision. I'll try not to go too quickly, jump around too much. So if we are making a brand new document, which for your assignments you won't, you just want to click blank document. There are a bunch of different templates. I don't recommend using any of them. Just do the formatting yourself and start with a blank. And so when we jump into a new document, I'll zoom out real quickly and we'll take a look at the different parts of Word. So from top to bottom, you have the main application bar that's got your undo, redo buttons. It's got a search box. It's got minimize, maximize, and close, and a couple of other things. It's not necessary that we spend too much time worrying about this. Below that, you have the ribbon. This is broken up into a bunch of different tabs, and each tab has a litany of buttons for you to work with. These are how you are going to style and add all the content that your document has that is not plain text. Of course, below that we have the document view. This has our document shown one page at a time. You could set the zoom level down below or in the ribbon. Speaking of which, we go down below the document view. We have the status bar. This has a few handy buttons to work with. We'll get into those shortly. So for now, I'm going to zoom back in and we're going to cover just the very basics. So let's just begin by writing some text. We're just going to say CS201. Move my mouse down just a little bit so you can see the whole thing. Sometimes Word will know what you're trying to type, or at the very least it'll guess, and it'll autofill with some grayed out text. If that is what you want, you can just press Tab and it'll finish filling it in for you. For the longest time, I didn't really like using it, but it's grown on me in a sense of work smarter, not harder. If the technology makes your life easier, let it make your life easier. Don't push back against it. And of course, my preferred name. So here we have our simple text, and we're going to manipulate that text here. So the first thing I always like to do whenever I'm making a new document, if my formatting is not necessarily important, if I can have it however the heck I want, I like to do Times New Roman. Here's our font selection. This has your recently used fonts, and then you have all of the fonts on your computer. These are listed in alphabetical order, and as you can see, each name gives you a nice little preview of what that font will look like. So again, we're just going to go with Times New Roman. You'll be using that a lot for writing papers, but I also just like the way it looks. I like the kerning, I like the letter style. We have our font size, 12. Again, this is a standard, although I do want to take a brief tangent. You may have been told in high school that APA format is Times New Roman 12-point font double spaced. That's not entirely true. APA formatting is a reference standard, which you'll find out more about references and citations in Module 2 for Word. But yes, Times New Roman 12-point font double spaced. This is a standard for APA formatting. It's also standard for a bunch of other formatting styles, but it's not the only. You can also do Arial 10-point font single-spaced, which is about triple the amount of text that you would put on a document with this styling. So let's look at the rest of this text here, or the rest of these buttons rather, excuse me. So if we want to select a line of our document, we can come into the left side margin and just click next to the line we want. We get this quick access toolbar here, which you can use to make some fast adjustments. I am stubborn and set in my ways in this regard. I just come up to the top most of the time. And so let's say we want CS201 to be italicized. You could set your italic here, your bold here, underline here. By the way, I always thought for the longest time that this drop down arrow was for the strike through here, not paying attention to the obvious border. So here's your underline menu. You have a bunch of different options, or you can just select more underlines and go straight to the full underline menu. We're not going to underline this. I just want you to know that that is there. Strike through, subscript, superscript, we are not going to use these in this class, but if you are taking a math class that requires you write your homework or whatever in Word, which may happen, I've had to do it plenty of times, you will rely on these two buttons quite a lot, or you can use their shortcuts. Speaking of which, if you hover your mouse over one of these buttons, it'll give you a handy little description. Take some time, make sure you are reading these. As you can see, superscript, which is like exponents and other things like that, is Control-Shift+. You also do Control equals for your superscript, or your subscript rather. Subscripts are a little less common in math, but still get used plenty. These buttons can be used to increase or decrease your font size, or you can use the drop-down menu. If you click inside either one of these boxes, you can also just write what you want instead of having to look for it. So if you have installed a custom font on your computer, I've done that a few times myself, it might be easier, since you already know the name of the font, ideally, to just write the name of it and let Word autocomplete. Moving on, we have our text effect. You'll be using this a couple times. So let's actually apply a text effect to my name. So we click our drop down, and here we have all of these. These just apply different colors, borders, shading, basically arrangements of all of these settings. You can set these individually if you like, or in the case of your SAM projects, you'll just be asked to apply one of these pre-made ones. So let's just apply a canned one. Let's choose you. Now you can see my name has been given this nice word arty look. Highlight. I do not use highlighting. Your SAM projects do not require to use highlighting. I don't know anybody who uses highlighting. You're better off just doing other means to add emphasis to your document, because as you can see, there's not a whole lot to this menu. Your options are pretty limited to just standard highlighter colors. You can set your text color here. Automatic just takes it back to whatever the default is. You've also got this row here is the basic colors for your palette. We'll get to palette in just a moment. The different shades of those colors, and then you have standard colors down here. These appear regardless of your palette. So a quick note, because people have made this mistake before, with your palette, you need to make sure you set that correctly, because if you don't, if you skipped that step in your SAM project and you're looking for a particular color, you're going to be lost, because each palette has a very different set of colors, as you're going to see. And it'll tell you in your project, okay, 5th row, 3rd column. And if you didn't set your palette right, you're going to look at that and be like, this is not whatever color Sam said it needed to be. So if that ever happens, it's because you didn't set your theme color right. So we will get to that in just a moment, how to do that. For now, we're going to move on to the paragraph section of the ribbon. You could set your alignment with these buttons. Left is obvious, centered is obvious, right is obvious. Justified adds a bit more or less space between individual words to flush everything with both margins. You see justified alignment pretty often in textbooks. If you haven't noticed it already, they tend to try and push everything up against both margins. I personally hate justified text because sometimes you get a line with 3 words. One word is all the way off to the left, one word is all the way off to the right, and then the second word is in the center. And that makes reading really awkward. Not the biggest fan of justified. Up above that, we have bulleted lists, numbered lists. If you ever take web development, these are called unordered and ordered lists. Click the drop downs, you can see all these different options, and we'll mess with those in a second. Actually, no, we'll mess with those now. So let's drop down, and I want to, just to be safe, I want to click our normal style, just so we don't have our word art to worry about. And let's make a bulleted list. So we can use the drop-down menu to select something fancy, or if you just click the left side of the button, it creates a simple bulleted list with circular buttons, or circular bullet points. So let's just do something really simple. We'll just say different fruits. In fact, let's change this. And we'll have a sub-list or nested list inside of this. So let's say berries, and then, oops, we want to press tab, and this will create another level to our list. We'll say, oops, nope, no. And so if you want to go back down a list level, you hold shift, press tab again, and let's just say and the controls for a numbered list are exactly the same. The only difference between an unordered and an ordered list is the points at the left. If it's ordered, there'll be things like letters and numbers and Roman numerals. If they're bullet points, they'll just be these little symbols. And to get out of a list, you just want to press enter again. And now we're out of it. We can type other text. Here you have your spacing options. By default, it's, I think, 1.15 spacing, and then we have extra space after each paragraph. I don't like that. So let's select all of our text by holding the control key, press A, and click this. I want to set it to single spaced, and I want to remove that text, or that spacing. So now everything is bumped up against each other as close as it'll get, and we have no empty space. I don't like empty space in my documents. Next thing to look at is our paragraph shading. This is just your background color for whatever text you've selected. We don't need to worry about this. And then the last thing I want to point out here is your border. There are a ton of border options here. And then you have your borders and shading menu, which gives you even more options. Let's just take a quick look at that. Did I misclick? I misclicked. Borders and shading. Here we go. So here you have a lot more control. You'll find that a lot of your buttons have menu options like this to take full control of whatever feature you're using. So we're not going to worry about adding a border, just know that this is here and everything is neatly laid out for you to understand. You've got your page border as well. You might need to add something like this at some point. Obviously, this is just a border around the entire page, not just a selection of text. And then shading is a color option. Press OK to confirm any changes you've made, or if you just want to exit out of it, you could click cancel, or what I did, I just pressed escape. So that's everything I want to cover on this ribbon tab. There is also your markers. I don't worry about this. These get in the way for me because of my limited vision. I'm prone to sensory overload, so these just create an obstruction for me and make my life more difficult. You might have to hide these as part of your SAM project. Just know that that button is here. These are your formatting markers. If you need to hide them, that's how you do it. Just click that button. Let's quickly go over the Insert tab, just a couple things. Page break here to jump down to the next page and ensure that everything below where you inserted the break is left blank. The main thing to talk about for this week on the Insert tab is pictures. Depending on your version of Office, this might be broken out into multiple options. I'm using 365, so it's all in one nice little package. 2019 has a different button for online pictures. So you'll have to insert a picture from your device. You click this and it'll take you to your file explorer. You navigate to where you had that picture saved and you double click it. It's as simple as that. You should know how to do that if you're doing your SAM projects. So let's insert an online picture just to show off some basic editing options that we have. So let's go with watermelon as our search term. And it'll use Bing to find our images. And we're just going to pick a basic watermelon image. Click it, it'll have a check mark over it. And when we press Insert, it'll close this menu and drop our picture down. And as you can see, it is ungodly massive. So the first thing we want to do is resize it. You can use these handles on the corners or on the sides to adjust the size by hand, but the better thing to do is, if you notice, whenever you have a picture or a chart or graph or whatever selected, you'll have some extra tabs to work with. Office 2019 makes them a bit easier to spot. You'll have a section of your top bar here that is darker in color, and then all your extra tabs are below. We don't have that. We just have picture format. So later on, we'll discuss correction, color, artistic effects. You don't need to worry about transparency and other things like that. Let's look at styling options really quickly. So this is a round picture. I want a round border. Let's just make things easy and click this one. Where did it go? Down to the next page. Okay. So let's zoom back in. And of course, these give you more control over your styling options. Alt text, we don't need to worry about this, but for those who are curious, this is the tooltip kind of text that gets picked up and displayed like this here. It's also used by screen readers to provide captioning to people with visual disabilities. So we have positioning, wrapping. These are covered later. Selection pane, we don't worry about that. Alignment, rotation, if you want to turn your image, this is how. You can do 90 degrees in either direction. You can mirror it vertically or horizontally, or you can use this menu and it will give you a nice handy dandy protractor, or it's supposed to. Oh, because I clicked size by mistake, I think. More rotation options. Oh, no, this is what I'm supposed to be getting. Never mind. It's hard when you jump between 2019 and 365. Sometimes you just mess things up and forget. Because there are significant differences between the two, and it does create issues for people doing SAM projects. Probably better to use 2019, but if you download it through Gem, you're getting 365. The last thing I want to talk about here is our size menu options here. This is the better way to size your image. You'll be told by Sam to select or to set it to a particular size. You can just enter that size here. So let's say we want our watermelon to be, it's at 6 by 9 by 6.5. Let's say we want it to be 2. Press enter, and it sets it to 2.27. Sometimes it will fix them both. Sometimes it won't. Let's set this to 2 and see if that fixes it. Okay, so by setting your width, it fixes the height. And now our watermelon is back up to the first page and nowhere near is in the way. And so that's really going to cover it. As far as the ribbon and setting up your document, the last thing I want to talk about is how to access things like saving. So the first time you save a document, if you want to save the same document with a new name, you click Save As, and then you want to browse. This will take you to your file explorer where you can set its destination, give it a name, and be done with it. Word also gives you the choice of what file type you want to make it. Just leave that alone for now. You can set them as PDFs if one of your classes requires it. You can just save your Word document as a PDF. That makes things far, far easier, although there are better applications for doing that. But that really covers everything you need to know for your first SAM project. So get to it. Best of luck. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me.